of baseball. He drives one deep left center toward the wall. That is out of here. Cespedes wins it with a home
At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Miami Marlins. Tuesday Night Baseball is presented by Verizon. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling with you tonight as the Mets continue their series against the Miami Marlins. What dramatics last night. Yoenis Cespedes, the walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th inning to give the Mets a 2-1 win. It is almost comical that every day we have to deal with more injury concerns. Today it's Neil Walker. Terry Collins said before the game the Mets have very great concern for Walker's availability going forward because of a back problem. Steven Matz scratched from Thursday night start. His shoulder's not ready to go. Mets are hoping maybe he can pitch sometime next week. As Asdrubal Cabrera, well, he's back in the lineup after pinch hitting last night. He's got the knee problem. But as Asdrubal told reporters before the game, he's only playing because the Mets are in a pennant push. Otherwise, he might not be going. So the question is, how does a player who's hurt but in the lineup go about his job?
Well, it depends on what part of your activity is affected. He said in the paper that he had trouble moving laterally. So I think more of his concerns are in the field. Remember, shortstop's a very important position. But if you feel you can go, and this is crunch time, you do what you have to do, whether it's a cortisone shot to help you along, whatever you can to help the team. I think it's very admirable that he's in the lineup. He was National League Player of the Week. They need him in that number 2 hole, hitting right behind Jose Reyes.
With the questions continuing about Mats, the Mets' younger starters take on even more importance. 4 times in the last 17 days, a Met pitcher has gotten his first big league win, including Seth Lugo, who goes tonight.
You know, before this season started, we knew all the starters' names. Now they all have no names. But Seth Lugo coming off a win in St. Louis. He only went 5 because his leg cramped up, but looking to double up here against the Marlins.
And the local product, Tom Kohler, goes for the Marlins. He has struggled against the Mets.
He struggled against them, but it's not from a lack of effort because he's always pitching against the Mets. But he's been really good for this Marlins team. 12 times he's taken them out after they've lost the game. He's 6-3 in those starts.
Marlins are just 10-16 in August. They've not been hitting, but they have been pitching well. They did last night, but the Mets beat them. The Mets will try and keep it going tonight. Mets and Marlins, all the action on SNY. on SNY is brought to you by the Better Network. Verizon, better matters. By your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers, Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. By Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop in store or online at mybobs.com. Bob, the State Farm agent of the game, John Garfinkel of Brooklyn. Contact John at johngarfinkel.com. And by Optimum, presenting Mets games in crystal clear HD. Come out to Citi Field this Saturday, September 3rd, when the Mets play the Nationals for the final fireworks night of 2016, presented by Empire City Casino. After the game, an exciting fireworks show will light up the night sky. For tickets, visit Mets.com/fireworks. Time for greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile. Last night's action, Miguel Montero capped a wild game as the Cubs came from behind, beat the Pirates in 13, 8-7. Jed Jerko's now hit 16 home runs since the All-Star break, only had 7 before the break. Cardinals rallied to beat the Brewers 6-5, and Tanner Roark 7 scoreless innings for the Nationals, who now have a 9-game lead over the Mets and Marlins in the National League East. Take advantage of a special Coca-Cola combo offer in select seating areas during all remaining Mets home games. Tickets start at just $19 and include a $10 food and beverage credit, so you can cheer on the Mets while enjoying your favorite Coca-Cola products. Tickets for this offer are only available at Mets.com/combo. Mets and Marlins even in the standings, 2.5 behind St. Louis. The wild card push continues. Mets and Marlins first pitch is coming right up. Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. I really enjoyed watching Cespedes tiptoe into home plate at the encouragement of Jose Reyes to protect his quad last night. Right. I liked even better Steve Gelbs getting drenched.
How about Reyes with the bucket head, with the gum bucket?
Well, it was like a crown.
Yes,
that's right. Well, we'll see what he can do for an encore. First, the Marlins starting lineup brought to you by Hyundai. Don Mattingly has moved things around a little bit. He moved Christian Yelich down to cleanup, moved Marcell Ozuna up to second. So it's the same guys as last night, but a little different batting order for Miami.
Well, Seth Lugo, the Land Rover numbers for Seth, winning his last start He did not have good numbers. In fact, they were bad numbers in the minor leagues, but he has taken off here. No home runs given up in his 28 2/3 innings pitched.
D. Gordon getting set to lead off for Miami.
And here's your hard charging Lexus New York Metsies. Jay Bruce back in right field. Diaza playing a terrific center field. Mr. Cabrera back at shortstop, a welcome. And also with Walker out, and we don't know the extent of his injury, Flores at second base and Rivera behind the plate.
Beautiful evening, low humidity. 30th day of August. September is beckoning. D. Gordon leads off against Seth Lugo, making his first start at Citi Field, and his first pitch is a fastball in for a strike, 0-1. Gordon 0 for 5 last night, and like most of the Marlins, he is slumping right now, just 1 for his last 16. This is a Miami team whose offense has disappeared during the month of August. They've scored just 20 runs in their last 9 games, and they're 10-16 in August after going 16-10 in July. Lugo ahead 0-2, and he pours one outside, 1-2. Seth Lugo, 26 years old, 34th round draft pick out of Centenary College in Louisiana. And the breaking ball fouled off. Centenary College, so little thought of for their baseball program that the last year that Seth pitched there was their last year in Division I.
1,031 players taken before him.
Is 1-2 to Gordon. It's a curveball outside, 2-2. Lugo's last start was in St. Louis last Thursday. He pitched 5 very nice innings, didn't allow a run, 2 hits, but he came out after 5 innings because of a cramp in his calf, which does not appear to be any lingering concern coming into this start. Line toward shortstop, short hop by Cabrera. He gets right into the action and throws out Gordon for the first out of the night.
The ball will find you, Keith.
Isn't that the truth? Fortunately, you know, he mentioned, as I said in the open, about his lateral movement. That's his concern in the field. So this ball was hit directly at him.
As Drubel was wearing a knee brace in the clubhouse, I don't know if he's actually wearing it under his uniform in the game. Can you see?
It looks like he's not. I mean, it might be like a black brace.
Yeah, that right there. Yeah. There it is. That is definitely nice going, guys. And that was I'll work on the telestration.
You're still working your way back into form in the telestrating department.
Well, you know what? They brought it back in, and it took them around a week to get it operational, if you recall. These things are very temperamental. They're like Maseratis.
Did you say a week?
It was longer than that.
A week isn't 3 months? Marcelo Ozuna 0 for 4 last night. And he takes a strike, 1-2. Ozuna over the last 23 games hitting 146. He has particularly struggled since Giancarlo Stanton went out with the groin injuries, the biggest power source left in this lineup. And Lugo sails one high, 2-2.
All right, he can run, so you could put him in the 2-hole. And I think what Don Mattingly's trying to do here is their best hitter is right there, that man, Martin Prado. And he swung a good bat last night, hitting him third, trying to get some fastballs for Ozuna in that 2-hole.
And he gets a fastball on the outside corner and looks at it for strike 3. So Lugo has his first strikeout, 2 down. Painting the corners. Stop by your local Sherwin-Williams store for all of your painting needs. Maybe a little outside the edges.
Or not.
That was a little sloppy.
Mike Everett, the crew chief, is calling the balls and strikes and gave one to Lugo there.
That gun underneath the blue tape. Absolutely.
So here's Prado, who was 1 for 4 last night, third in the National League in batting, hitting at .320, having himself his finest offensive season. And he takes a slider for a strike. Prado hit .280 last year, and at age 32, putting together his best year so far.
Seems like he's been around forever, doesn't it?
First came up with the Braves I was thinking about this the other day. When he first started, didn't he have some headache issues that he had to work through?
Headaches, some anxiety issues. Right. Something was going on.
Remember, he had to take himself out of a couple of games because of that. But he is one of the most respected players in the game. 0-2 coming. And he laces one toward the gap in left center field. Heading back toward the wall. It'll go on one hop. And Prado will cruise into second base with a 2-out double. His 30th double of the year.
He's got such a short swing, compact. Line drive hitter. 7 home runs on the year. Come inside and look at him turn on that. A quick bat. And he likes that ball belt tying up. You got to keep the ball down on him. Can't do it much better than that. He's a player.
So Lugo gives up a hit on an 0-2 count. And now Christian Yelich hitting cleanup tonight. Yelich has had his own issues. Last 9 games he's hitting 129. 0 for 3 last night. He walked twice. Prado at second and 2 out. And Yelich takes a fastball strike. Well, that's what Yelich has done against the Mets this year. It was 404 going into last night. So the Mets have cooled him down.
No secret, really. The Marlins hitters have all gotten ice cold all at the same time.
He bought a caller last night, 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts against the left-handers. He did not look good against Blevins and Smoker. He was pulling off.
Josh Smoker wound up getting his first big league win last night. The 4th Met pitcher in the last 17 days to get his first win. Lugo was the last one in St. Louis last Thursday. That's the fastest that 4 Met pitchers have ever gotten their first big league wins.
Another 67 on the hill, Gare. Another 60. Yeah. And
Mets have had 5 pitchers this year with numbers in the 60s, so they've used up half the available offensive lineman numbers. Good changeup by Lugo, and it's 2-2 to Yelich. Here's your umpiring crew. Mike Everett has the plate. Paul Emmel, Jordan Baker, and Tim Tibbins rounding out the crew. Baker, the youngster of the quartet.
Baker's a big dude. Second base.
Like Joe Don.
Yeah. Joe Don.
Oh, did you see the email on the I know there's 2 outs here. The explanation for the challenge yesterday?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yelich fouls it off. It's simply this. Don Mattingly wanted the challenge and then decided not to take it. And the umpires were going to let him rescind the challenge. Terry Collins came out and said he can't do that. And the umpires got together and they said, you're right, he can't do that.
It took them around 2 minutes to figure out that Terry was right.
So they made Mattingly go through with the challenge that he had thought better of. And of course he lost the challenge and Mets got the benefit. And as Terry said, I went out there, but I was hoping that I was really right, because otherwise I'd basically be challenging my own call.
Exactly. Well, the universal sign for managers when they walk out of the dugout is to put their hands to their ears, that they want the umpires to go to the headsets. That's what Mattingly did. And that's what Terry Collins told Mike Everett, the crew chief, happened. That's why the umpires got together to see, did anyone see Mattingly do that? Obviously, they did.
So the bottom line is, once you signal for a challenge, you cannot take it back. And that's what Mattingly found out last night. 3-2 to Yelich. Xavier Scruggs is the on-deck batter. Prado at second and 2 out. And Yelich lifts one toward left center. It's deep. Back goes Cespedes. It's over his head. And it's out of here. An opposite field 2-run homer for Christian Yelich puts the Marlins in front early. 16th home run of the year for Yelich. And Miami takes a 2-0 lead.
Well, that's a big lift right there for the Marlins, who have been struggling offensively, looking for a spark. This is impressive right here. The decent sinker down in the zone, and Yelich showing some pop here, which he has got some pop. He's good wrists, and that is clearly out of the ballpark. And he gets bigger and stronger as he matures, Gary. He could be something really, really special. You see him driving off that back foot. Look at the balance. The lefties like that ball down, don't they, RJ?
Yes, they do, especially out over the plate, does Yelich.
Well, as Ronnie mentioned, Seth Lugo had not given up a home run in the major leagues. He faced 97 batters before he gave up a home run. The longest streak at the start of his career since Bobby Parnell didn't give up a home run to his first 106 batters in 2008 and 9. But now Yelich breaks the streak. Scruggs had a big night last night, 2 for 3, drove in a run.
Well, he hit a bullet, a double in the left center field gap that just was a laser beam that Cespedes couldn't get to. That ball was by him in a heartbeat. Drove in the only Marlin run.
1-2 from Lugo, and that's ripped into left field. A base hit for Scruggs. So 3 straight 2-out hits for Miami, and Scruggs is now 3 for 4 in the series.
Well, he likes that ball in. It looks like he's quick. Oh, it's a hanger right there. Belt high too.
Even though he threw 5 shutout innings in his last start, there were a lot of balls hit hard from the Cardinals. Some really good defensive plays from the Mets to give Lugo those 5 scoreless innings. So
I remember the first batter against him in St. Louis. Matt Carpenter hit one to the top of the fence in center field that Alejandro De Aza brought back. Here's Ichiro Suzuki, who had 2 hits last night, now 3,011 hits in his major league career. And the dribbler up the first baseline. Lugo off balance, and he got it there to Loney in time. What a play. A ball that might have gone foul had he let it roll, but Lugo wasn't taking the chance, and somehow he avoided hitting Ichiro and got it to Loney, and they get the out.
That's a heck of
the inning.
That's a heck of a play, and Loney's got to be in foul territory there. What a play.
Marlins take the early lead on the Yelich home run, 2-0 as the Mets come to bat. After his home plate collision last night, set to lead off for New York. As we go to the bottom of the first, there's your Geico Mets starting lineup. Jay Bruce, who sat last night, back in there today. Alejandro De Aza, only the 2nd time in his career he's hit 5th, his first as a Met, as he has moved up with his bat heating up. Neil Walker out of the lineup again today, and there's Tom Kohler, New Yorker through and through.
Yeah, Toyota numbers for Tom. This is his 17th start against the Mets. He's 2-6 with an over 4 ERA in those 16 prior.
Born in the Bronx, raised in New Rochelle, educated in Stony Brook. pitching in South Florida. Jose Reyes has a home run and 3 career at-bats against Kohler, who's given up 2 leadoff home runs this year, and Reyes takes a strike. Jose 1 for 5 last night, had the double and scored the tying run in the 8th inning that resulted in that collision with A.J. Ramos. And at first it looked as though Reyes might have had a problem with his left shoulder, but it went away quickly. He professed to be perfectly okay by the time the game was over. Made to feel better by Cespedes' walk-off hit.
One thing about Reyes, from the day he came up to today, there's no one in much better shape than Jose.
Reyes, Cabrera, and Cespedes against Kohler in the first. And Jose slaps one. Prado can't get it. Echeverria does, but he has no play, and Reyes has an infield hit.
Well, Jose continues to get on base, hitting at over a 320 clip since coming off the DL. That's over 16 ball games, and has scored 14 runs over that 16-game span, and that's what you want from your leadoff hitter.
I'm always surprised when the third baseman take away the bunt. How many times have you seen Reyes bunt? And I know the famous bunt by Reyes, his last hit before he re-signed with the Mets here, but he doesn't bunt that often.
So you're saying you'd rather the third baseman give a little ground?
I would say take it away, back up a little bit as the pitch comes.
Here's Asdrubal Cabrera in the lineup tonight despite the sore left knee. And he rockets one down the right field line toward the pole. It's out of here! Asdrubal Cabrera with a 2-run homer as he tucks it inside the foul pole. No pressure on the knee to jog around the bases. His 17th home run of the year ties the game at 2.
Boy, is he hot. Wants it away. It comes across inner half. And he turns. He had good cuts pinch hitting last night, Gary. Good healthy cuts. And he continues his home run barrage here. His 4th home run in this homestand.
4th since coming off the disabled list. And now Cespedes takes a strike. Cabrera, last week's National League Player of the Week, and starts this week with a bang. That Met home run means $2,000 for No Kid hungry enough to provide 20,000 healthy meals, courtesy of Citi.
You know, this is certainly not against any of your bench players, but what used to be the norm is you had your best players play, even if they were at 75 or 80%. Having them in the lineup changes your lineup, and Cabrera proved that right there.
And Cespedes hits one out to center. This one's playable for Ozuna. And that's the first out.
The Coors Light Marlin defense. That's a pretty good outfield out there, even with Stanton out. Solid fielders in that outfield. Prado, we've talked about. Echeverria and D. Gordon. One of the finest keystones in the Major League Baseball, and Realmuto behind the plate.
So now Jay Bruce, who pinch hit last night and lined out. His playing time has become more sporadic. He had a calf cramp. He's had poor performance that's kept him out of the lineup, but in there tonight. And he drives one to deep right field. Ichiro watches it. One hop the wall. Bruce racing for second, and he is in easily with a double.
Well, fans. That's not boos. Those are Bruce.
You can turn them quickly, can't you?
Oh boy. Just as soon as the wind shifts.
One hit and add an R.
Well, that's a good sign right there, though, to be very serious. Jay has been out in front. Look how he hits the ball at the plate there. Perfect balance. Not lunging, not throwing that front shoulder out. That is a good sign.
So a rocky beginning for Tom Kohler. 4 batters, 3 hits, 2 runs home. Now Alejandro De Aza with Bruce at second and 1 out. De Aza 1 for 5 last night. Has been getting the majority of the playing time in center field.
Hey, 1 for 5, but hitting in tough luck. He's hitting the ball hard, De Aza.
And he gets tied up and went around 0-1.
Baseball, the craziest game. Last night they couldn't even muster any offense, these two teams, and right out of the chute today.
Well, the Mets had only 3 hits in the first 6 innings last night against Jose Fernandez. They have 3 hits the first 4 batters tonight. And De Aza takes the curveball down, blocked by Real Muto, 1-1.
Mets have always been hard on Kohler, the local kid. 2-6 lifetime against the Mets. Oh, look at the skyline back there. Very pretty. That's the 17th start against the Mets. 3 relief appearances. ERA 4.13.
And the curveball in for a strike to De Aza, 1-2.
He's got one of those 12-6 curveballs on Ron, straight to like a drop, we used to call him when we were kids.
He's got a good one. His fastball, he throws hard, but it's pretty straight fastball. It's where he can get hurt sometimes.
He's been pitching well. Last 7 starts, 3-1, 2 ERA. He struggled early in the season, but seemed to have hit his stride. But the Mets have jumped him early in this one. Now Echeverria runs to the bag. Kohler throws home anyway, and De Aza grounds one at Gordon. And that's the second out as Bruce goes to third. That was odd because Echeverria made a run to the second base bag, and instead of throwing or stepping off, Kohler threw the pitch.
Yeah, the time prior he put it on. Echeverria did, but Kohler just waited and then threw to the plate. This time he threw while Echeverria was out of position. That's not the right thing to do as a pitcher.
Wow.
So now Bruce at third with 2 out. Here's Wilmer Flores playing second base again tonight with Walker out of the lineup. Terry Collins' words about Neil Walker tonight were, "We have a lot of concern." Wilmer taking all the way, and it's ball 1. Nobody seems to know exactly what is going on with Neil Walker's back. Terry implied that the Mets do know what's going on, and what he said was that even if Neil comes back and plays, that he's not going to be able to play every day with his back in the condition it's in. That's line to center field, and that's in for a base hit, and the Mets have the lead. Wilmer Flores hits in an 8th straight game and gives the Mets a 3-2 lead.
Well, Wally Backman told me a long time ago when Wilmer had his struggles early, he said Wilmer can hit, and Wilmer can hit in the clutch. And Wilmer's been turning it on. We know what he can do against left-handers, but he's getting more playing time due to the injuries against the right-handers. And you know what? He's getting some clutch hits. That's 2-out RBIs aren't easy. And this point of the season right here, when every game counts, to come back here with a 3 spot after the Marlins get a 2 spot in the first inning, very nice.
4 hits in this opening inning for New York, and now James Loney. Loney, after a very positive couple of months, has struggled during August, so he's dropped to 7th in the batting order tonight.
You know, that hit another example of a very good defense in the outfield, this Miami Marlins defense, but they play extremely deep.
Especially Ozuna.
That's in Lagares' back pocket.
Do you think that's an organizational philosophy? Do you think it's the ballpark they play in?
I think it's comfortability. I think certain outfielders feel comfortable playing one way or the other, whether it's deep or shallow.
Right.
And mostly outfielders play deep.
I really don't think. I think Ozuna's more of a corner outfielder than a center fielder, to be honest with you.
That's a good point, Keith.
One thing is for certain, over the years, the vast majority of the best center fielders have played shallow.
They dare you to hit the ball over their head.
Paul Blair,
Willie Mays.
Let's get contemporary. Don't want Kurt texting.
Juan Lagares. 2-0 to Loney. And he fouls it off. 2-1. Loney in his last 80 at bats has had 17 singles and no extra base hits and no walks. So since August 1st, he has a .213 batting average, a .213 on base percentage, and a .213 slugging percentage.
He's in a bit of a slump, a little bit of a funk, and he's kind of falling back on his back foot.
Curveball in for a strike, 2-2.
If you watch him swing, sometimes it looks like he's, instead of driving forward towards the hitter, he's kind of pulling back a little bit, and I think that's been his problem.
Needs more Adam Wainwright. Owns Wainwright.
That's right.
A big game against him last week. That's pulled foul.
Boy.
Wainwright on the hill tonight for the St. Louis Cardinals on his 35th birthday.
He did not look very good when we saw him in St. Louis. Cardinals pulled one out last night in Milwaukee on an error in the 9th inning. Loney grounds one down to Scruggs. That retires the side, but the Mets grab the lead after Yelich's 2-run homer in the top of the inning. Cabrera, first pitch swinging, gets the Mets even in a hurry. 17th home run of the year, ties it. Flores' base hit puts the Mets in front, 3-2. After an active first inning, Mets have a 3-2 lead as we start the second. JT Realmuto leads off and takes a fastball strike from Seth Lugo. Realmuto 0 for 5 last night with 4 strikeouts. So on the heels of the golden sombrero, Realmuto jumps back in and drives one to center field, chasing De Aza back to the warning track. He gets to it. Boy, he's played a good center field.
Certainly has.
Let's go back to the Yelich home run in the first inning.
You know what happens between pitcher and catcher, they don't always agree on the pitch selection. So watch Rene Rivera. He's putting down the pitches. He'll be shook off by Lugo. But then you'll see the little head turn by there by Rivera. That head turn is like if you ask someone something, he said, "I'm not sure." That's what that head turn by Rivera was. And he wasn't sure about the pitch from Lugo.
Now he certainly didn't mean to convey uncertainty to his pitcher, because you never want to do that.
No, he wasn't doing that at all. The pitcher wasn't even looking at him by that point. He was just doing what a catcher will do. Boy, I'm not sure. You know, anything away should be more in. But that happens sometimes.
Could be, okay, that's what you want to throw. Fine, so we're in the game.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's not what I would call, but okay, go with it.
Echeverria hits one out to right, and Bruce is right there. And there are 2 out. Follow Mets baseball live with the MLB.com at Bat app, which includes game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Flushing, Queens, the sports mecca of New York.
Right.
It's Tom Kohler, 5 hits this year, and that's the first pitch ball that Lugo has thrown tonight.
5 for 43, but he's got 4 RBIs, so he's made him count.
As Murph used to say, he has a lot of timely hits.
I love those Murphisms.
One-two from Lugo, and the curveball scoots to the backstop, 2-2.
So far early in this game, the curveball is kind of eluding Seth. He's trying to find the range. He's bounced a couple in the dirt.
And Kohler hits a slow ground ball. Flores handles it, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Lugo against the lower third of the order after getting the lead. 3-2 Mets in the second. Trivia question. Oh boy. Final game at Shea Stadium in 2008. Which 2 Mets pitchers gave up the 8th inning home runs to Wes Helms and Dan Uggla?
Come on, you can't. Couldn't be positive here on the trivia question.
That's a sad question to ask. It really is. Did Dave Freed come up with that
He
one?
must have.
He's such a negative Nelly.
I've kind of put a unconscious wall up. I don't recall that ever happening.
All I can recall is in that last game at Shea, when the last out was made, you and I got in the elevator, and 2 guys had just been arrested, and they were on the elevator with us, and we had a conversation. That's all I can remember about that game.
I do remember this. The game ended. The entire stadium was deflated. And then that fantastic closing ceremony was so inspiring, but so your emotions were so torn because you loved the ceremony, but the result was still lingering. It was a very strange day. And I remember going on the field and collecting dirt.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. Still have it. Tucked away.
Do you fertilize it and keep it moist?
No. Rene Rivera pops up the first pitch at the bottom of the second. And D. Gordon one-hands it, one away. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Verizon. Current Verizon wireless or Fios customers go to sny.tv/Verizon all season long for access to unique Tuesday night baseball experiences. I'm sure I've told you this before. In 1969, when the Mets won the league championship series from the Braves, I was at the game, 11 years old, got down on the field after the game and got a piece of turf. Sorry, I vandalized. I mea culpa.
No.
And I kept that piece of turf for 30 years in a plastic bag.
That could be one of those cold cases, you know, Gary. They come after you.
I think the statute of limitations had run out. By the way, there were 40,000 other people who also got their piece of turf.
Not on air, though.
No, not this air. Seth Lugo 1 for 5 in his big league career. And he takes inside from Kohler, 2-1.
Were you a little afraid as 11-year-old out there? I mean, there was mayhem out there.
No, actually, it wasn't bad in '69. It was a very friendly atmosphere. Much more scary and wild in 1973. The entire vibe was different. It was that was mayhem. And I was out on the field then. I was 15. And it was a little scary. And it was at that point that the on-field celebrations stopped.
They brought the horses in.
Well, the first time I remember the horses was in Philly in 1980 when the Phillies won the World Series. Because, you know, by that time you had had Disco Demolition Night in Chicago, too.
That would have been the Chicago White Sox, under ownership of Bill Veeck.
Gordon catches his second pop-up of the inning, and there are 2 out. Well, they remember the White Sox had to forfeit the second game of the doubleheader because they burned the records and the fans went crazy.
Burned that mother down, I guess.
That's why you no longer have Bat Day. You can have Bam Bams out there.
Things are much more serene now. Here's Reyes, who had an infield hit to lead off the first inning and then scored in front of Cabrera's home run. And Reyes does run up as though he's going to bunt, which might bring Prado in even further.
Well, I got him a base hit last time. Prado played in at the corner on the left of your screen there at third base. And Reyes just slapped a little single right by him.
Well, I'm going through the Dave Freed hieroglyphics here, and he said that Reyes has only bunted the ball in play once this entire season.
136 at bats now for Jose. And he lines this one into right field, and Reyes is 2 for 2.
Keep it going, Jose. Little sinker, let go with one hand, didn't get it away enough. Allowed Jose to get that barrel on the bat. Let go with one hand, stayed back.
What a difference at the top of the batting order. For most of the season, you had Curtis Granderson, who gave you that power threat there and hit a bunch of leadoff home runs. But Reyes just brings an entirely different skill set to the top of the batting order. Here's Cabrera, who jumped on the first pitch and homered his first time up.
I'm just going to say that usually after a pitcher gives up a home run on the first pitch to a fastball, next time up the first pitch will be a breaking ball. Let's see if Kohler does that.
And that might be a good pitch for Reyes to run on if he thinks that way. Threw a fastball, and Cabrera lines that into right center for a hit. Reyes going first to third as Ichiro gets it in. And the Mets have runners at the corners with 2 out.
Well, I'll tell you what, the top of the order, Jose and Asdrubal have just been igniting the offense.
You know what's interesting about that is that earlier in the season, when Terry Collins tried Cabrera in the 2-hole, it didn't work out very well. But since he's been back from the disabled list, he has been an ideal number 2 hitter.
Oh, Keith, you thought in spring training that he was the perfect guy to hit in that 2-hole.
I agree. Yes, I did.
Just did not get off to a quick start.
You know what, too? He's a switch hitter. Yeah. It's, you know, the Mets with Walker in the lineup. Of course, Walker's not in the lineup, but with Jose now. they run up 3 switch hitters, and that's tough on a manager, tough on pitchers.
Well, Cabrera now in 11 games since returning from the disabled list is hitting .472. So you can see how important he has been. And now Cespedes gets the bat with runners at the corners and 2 out. I was shocked when I heard that Cespedes' walk-off home run last night was only the 2nd of his career.
Only the 3rd walk-off hit, 2nd home run. Last one was in Oakland, right?
As a rookie in 2012. Fly to center his first time up tonight. And Kohler runs one inside. That Whitman was trying to do last night.
I'm thinking it's more, we're talking about the walk-off home runs. When you are a pitcher and you see Cespedes late in the game, that's the man you identify that you're not going to let beat you, usually.
Well, I figured what he would see from Whitgren were fastballs over his head or curveballs in the dirt.
Well, he wanted to come in, and he put it right down. It would have been a bowling alley, it would have been a strike.
Remember the 1-0 count? He got a pitch, Whitgren away, that was off the plate. It made it 1-1. And that evened the count and maybe got him to think he could come inside once and then go back away.
So you're saying if he doesn't get that call and he's 2-0, maybe he doesn't go after him at all.
No way he throws the ball in if it's 2-0. No way. And, you know, listen, he's a young kid. He's got a talented arm. He's going to be a heck of a pitcher. Just made a mistake. Everyone's made tons of mistakes.
And he was the first to own up to it after the game.
Admirable.
Jay Bruce on deck. Kohler retired the first 2 here in the 2nd, but Reyes and Cabrera with back-to-back hits. And Cespedes chases the slider for strike 3. So Kohler gets himself through the jam with his first strikeout of the night. 3-2 Mets as we go to the 3rd at Citi Field. Third inning, D. Gordon leads off against Seth Lugo and pounds the curveball into the dirt. Foul, 0-1. Gordon grounded out to short his first time up. Second time through the batting order for Lugo. Gave up a 2-run homer to Christian Yelich in the first. That ball got awfully dirty from one swing.
Yeah, it's a muddy clay in front of the plate. I was thinking that maybe Seth Lugo could tell us that. He was in college to be a geology major, a landman, he said.
That's very interesting right there. Mike Everett doing a little groundskeeping in front of the plate as well as sweeping off the plate.
Look at that.
Now, normally that muddy That's lined over the glove of Loney and down the line. Bruce has to chase him to the corner. Gordon off to the races, heads to second, and he'll stop there. Picked up his third base coach Lenny Harris, who told him to stop with nobody out. And Gordon settles for his 6th double of the year.
Well done by D here with the base hit here. He had triple on his mind, just out of the reach of Loney.
Well, we saw with Reyes with Prado, right? Pulling Prado in where Loney had to be in even with the bag also. That's why this shot got by him.
And Gordon is thinking trip right here all the way, triples. Now he does the right thing here. The ball's behind you. Pick up your third base coach. Well done.
I guess if you're not a home run hitter, you flip the bat on a double.
He obviously watched Cespedes last night.
That's right.
So the tying run at second with nobody. I was going to say about the mud in front of the home plate. Certain teams like to make the dirt in front of home plate muddier for different reasons, right?
Oh, got him.
Zuna gets drilled and stares out at Lugo.
There's 2 pitches in a row right in on the Zuna. Second one hit him.
Well, that's part of an occupational hazard right there. And that happens. They're going to pitch him in. Oh, and he has the pad on, so he's fine. Well, you know, come on. Take the macho stuff and put it in the suitcase and pack it away.
But I think you're right, Gary. That gamesmanship that used to be done around baseball, depending on maybe on your team. You had a slower team and the other team was fast. You'd make that a little softer or wetter around the base paths or in front. Not have it rock hard so they could chop down and get those infield hits.
But if you have a guy who likes to bunt his way on, wouldn't it be of use to him to have it a little muddier?
It would, but I think a lot of it has to do with your pitcher also. If your pitcher's home team is a guy that gives up a lot of ground balls, you want a little softer in front.
Well, Lugo could certainly use a ground ball now. First and second and nobody out with Prado, who doubled to left center his first time up. And he takes a fastball strike. Prado hitting .381 with runners in scoring position, which is the best in the National League and just raging hot over the last 5 weeks. Gordon at second, Ozuna at first, and nobody out. And Prado hits this one out to left. Cespedes chasing it. He'll get there. And the runners will have to return.
Just got it in enough. I have concern now with Cespedes' quad as far as his range is concerned, and also worried about, if he re-aggravates it. And there's an angry Prado. Yep, just got in enough with that fastball running in.
Now Cespedes at full strength, maybe the best left fielder in baseball, but he's obviously at something less than full strength. Here's Yelich, who hit a 2-run homer his first time up, going the other way.
Well, as Ronnie said, if a guy hits a home run off you the first time up, you change the program. Remember, he hit a home run, opposite field sinker, down and away. Lugo leads him off with a fastball in.
And Yelich lines one to center. De Aza hustling in to grab it for the second out. Yelich hit a bullet and stayed up for De Aza, 2 away.
Well, very fortunate this inning right here for Mr. Lugo. Couple line drives right at people with men on base.
So now 2 out and 2 on for Xavier Scruggs, who had a base hit to left field his first time up. Scruggs getting a chance to play first base these days. Justin Bour's been out almost 2 months, and Scruggs over the last 2 weeks has gotten the opportunity to play there and taken advantage of it. 10 hits and 27 bats since he joined the Marlins, so he's hitting .370 after hitting 21 home runs in AAA this year. Two out and 2 on, and Lugo keeping his eye on Gordon.
They're really though. Lugo's in a way that you really can't keep Gordon too close. Both infielders are back. Cabrera's playing the pull. They want to make sure they maintain their position defensively.
Now, we were talking in the open tonight about concessions that you make to playing a little bit injured. With Cabrera, he's not going to be doing a lot of dashing back and forth behind the bag anyway, right?
No, I think a lot of that's going to have to be the second baseman's going to have to keep the runners close. But also, Gary, if it's a dead pull left-hand hitter, Cabrera's just going to have to cheat probably in his positioning more up the middle to stay behind the runner if it's a stolen base threat like D. Gordon is.
Now Lugo behind on Scruggs 2-0. And Scruggs swings at the slider and misses 2-1.
That was a good slider on a 2-0 count. Outside corner knees.
And Scruggs goes around again, and it's 2-2.
Well, Keith, the option for Lugo is that Scruggs has tipped his hand. He was going to go after that slider, but he also had that fastball in, which he started with the first 2 pitches if he can make the pitch.
2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to Scruggs. He goes back to the fastball and gets him looking to end the inning. Second strikeout for Lugo. He works himself out of third inning trouble and keeps the Mets in front 3-2. Two more games to go in this series against the Marlins the next 2 nights. Then the Nationals are in for 3-night games over the weekend. Then the Mets embark on a long road trip to Cincinnati, Atlanta, and Washington. 9 games beginning on Monday, Labor Day. 3-2 New York as we go to the bottom of the third. Jay Bruce will lead off against Tom Kohler.
There you go. Back to school soon.
Sorry, kids.
I already put my time in.
Jay Bruce double to right his first time up. And he takes a fastball strike from Kohler.
He's got to feel good about that leadoff double. Breaking ball that he stayed back on.
And he hits this one weakly to left. And Yelich comes in to get it. 1 out. Alejandro De Aza coming up. Doug Williams is here tonight. Let's check in with him. Doug.
Hey guys, about an hour and a half before today's game, Jeurys Familia did something he's been doing really all season every once in a while. He hosted 35 foster care children here. They're from Queens, and he really just hosted them. He signed autographs for them. He gave them T-shirts. They were so happy to be there. He was so happy to have them, and this has been a big thing for Jeurys Familia. Grew up poor in the Dominican Republic, really understands and appreciates what these kids are going through, and it was an emotional thing for him. You could clearly tell that he was just having such a good time and enjoying it. It's called Familia's Family, and he's really enjoyed this time he's been able to share with kids. He talked about it before the game today, just talked about how important this cause is to him because of where he grew up.
Well, it's nice to see Jeurys doing good works, which is not surprising at all if you know him at all. What a nice man he is, and what a tremendous performer he is become in a short period of time. Yeah,
he's a special dude. He's just one of those guys that very humble by his success, doesn't take anything for granted. You like those kind of people having great success. You really do. And to take it and do something with it that's positive, even better.
Good curveball by Kohler gets him even on Diaz at 2-2. Goes back to the curve, gets the ground ball, and Gordon throws out Diaz at 2 away. Jeurys talked earlier tonight about why this foster children's program is so important to him.
For me, it's very important because where I came from Dominican Republic, is a lot of kids like that, and I like to be with the kids. I started working last year in December in Dominican. We're doing big dinner in Dominican for the kids, and from that day, I tell my agent I want to do something here in New York or help the kids and doing whatever I could for make it happen.
And he is making it happen.
Yep. He's a wonderful man. A man of faith, and giving back, I think, is admirable.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's one thing to just show up at a philanthropic event like that, but one thing he said, I asked him a second question, I just said, what does it mean to you to see the smiles on these kids' faces? He said, I can't tell you how much this means, and it clearly comes from such a personal place for him, and it's really clear that, I mean, it's not like Jeurys Familia has been in the league for 10, 15 years. At such an early stage in his career, he's gotten involved so quickly. It's great to see.
Well, we forget sometimes, especially with a lot of the young players from the Dominican, the kind of circumstances that they come from and the obstacles they have to overcome, both socioeconomically and in terms of the language barrier, to succeed here. And the level of understanding of just how important it is to share that is it's really special to see. 1-2 to Flores, who drove in a run with a base hit his first time up.
Many players will do it in their hometowns. Very few will do it like Jeurys is doing it here in Queens.
Flores goes down swinging on the changeup, and Kohler has his second strikeout of the night. 1-2-3 go the Mets in the third. Mets lead 3-2 after 3. like the bridge-to-bridge photography.
Yes.
With the FDRs moving very quickly.
Cables included.
Ichiro Suzuki leads off in the 4th inning. Ichiro dribbled one up the first baseline his first time up, and Lugo made a terrific play to throw him out, getting the ball over Ichiro, but low enough for Loney to be able to handle. And Ichiro hits one out to left, and Cespedes drifts over to get it. 1 out. So the Mets started Robert Gsellman on Sunday. They started Rafael Montero last night and Seth Lugo tonight. Among the 3 of them going into this stretch, they had 11 combined starts in the major leagues. Barry Collins said he's never had a circumstance as a manager where he sent out these kinds of inexperienced starters one after the other. And if you look back in Mets history, it's been a long time since they've had a trio this inexperienced go back to back to back. You got to go back to September of 1991 when the names were Pete Schurik, Tony Castillo, and Anthony Young, who would go on to greater fame. Real Muto lines one toward the middle, a base hit. So that's the 5th hit against Lugo. A 1-out single for Real Muto, his first hit in the series.
Fastball up, outer half.
So the Marlins have a 1-out base runner. Now Echeverria, who flied out his first time up. Bartolo Colon is going to go tomorrow night for the Mets, and the plan was for Steven Matz to come off the disabled list and pitch Thursday, but that's not going to happen. Matz has been scratched. The Mets are hoping he might be able to pitch next week, but that's by no means guaranteed either. And that obviously is a blow to Matz and to the Mets. Boxed by Rivera, but he stays with it, so Real Muto can't move up. There are your city probables now. Mets will face David Phelps tomorrow night, who's done a nice job since moving into the rotation. And Jacob deGrom, who supposedly was having a start skipped, winds up being just pushed back 3 days and making the start on Thursday against Jose Urena.
That means Syndergaard will pitch the next night, right?
They'll go the first game against the Nats on Friday. And that also means Robert Gsellman stays in the rotation. And he'll probably pitch Saturday against the Nats. Echeverria fouls it back. Montero, who started last night, got sent down today so the Mets could bring up Logan Verrett to give them some insurance in the bullpen.
A live arm.
Yeah. So, you know, the Mets pitching is very much in a state of flux. And, you know, the way Matt's described it, he has an impingement in his shoulder that bit him when he was throwing the other day. And, it's happened enough times now in his throwing sessions that Mets just don't feel comfortable sending him out there.
And the last time he threw on the side into his workout, he threw one pitch and they just shut it down. He just felt too much pain.
Now the obvious question is whether the bone spur he's been pitching with has caused the shoulder to act up. But the Mets have very sophisticated tracking equipment that looks at the delivery, the mechanics,
right.
And what it has told them is that he has not altered his mechanics, not altered his arm angle at all since the bone spur. So take that for what you will. I mean, that bone spur is going to have to be taken care of when the season's over anyway. But whether the shoulder will enable Steven to pitch any more the rest of the year is very much an open question. 3-1 to Echeverria. And there's a strike. 3-2.
Terry Collins said something pretty interesting. He said that at this moment, with the impingement that he's feeling, he doesn't have the confidence to go out there and make a start and feel as though he's going to be healthy. It's a bad place to be.
Three and two with 1 out. Real Muto has some speed at first, and he is running. Echeverria takes it high for ball 4, or did he? No swing, says the first base umpire, so it is a walk. And the Marlins have 2 men on. First walk given up by Lugo. Well, you'd have to say during this period of uncertainty for the Mets rotation, with Harvey out for the year and DeGrom having his start pushed back and Matt's on the disabled list and having to work guys like Gazelman and Montero and Lugo into the rotation, the Mets have survived it so far quite nicely.
Well, you know, it was interesting. I was reading something today about the '78 Yankees that came back and overtook the Red Sox, and Bob Lemon was their manager, and he said, I don't care, just give me enough arms, I'll make it work as long as Reggie hits. That's kind of where the Mets are now. Give us enough arms that they can get some outs, and Cespedes has got to keep hitting like he did in last night's game in the last couple of weeks. But it's a strange place because, you know, in March and in April, you're thinking that every 5th day you're going to run someone out there that could do something special. And, you know, now you're asking these young kids, some are not as young as others, to go out there with little experience and pitch in a stretch run.
And they've all acquitted themselves really quite nicely. They've really chipped in and done a heck of a job. They have not. You were worried about them taxing the bullpen, getting knocked out early, beat up. They have not. They have done remarkably well.
There's Kohler up there to bunt, and Lugo sails one high. Speaking of Lemon and the '78 Yankees, he did have Ron Guidry.
Yeah, well, that helps.
And of course Terry has Noah Syndergaard.
That's right.
You have to have an ace in the hole somewhere, even if the rest of your staff is a little shot up.
Didn't they have Eduardo Figueroa on that team too? Was he pitching for them? He was their number 2 starter back then, that right-hander, Ed Figueroa.
Yeah.
Was Rudy May there then?
Not sure, but I know Figueroa was a solid pitcher for the Yankees back in the 70s.
We also had Goose to go 3 innings if you needed it.
That's true.
Real Muto at second, Echeverria at first. Kohler, a pretty good bunter, had 12 sacrifices last year, only 3 this year. And that's on the corner, and it's 1-2.
Wow. I thought it was a ball.
Well, you had Guidry, Figueroa, Dick Tidrow made 25 starts that year.
Dirt.
Catfish Hunter and Jim Beattie.
So they were pretty good.
They were not bereft.
No, they had good starting pitching.
But a lot of those guys were hurt at times that year, and I think that's the point Lemon was making when that quote was attributed to him. See if Kohler's bunting on 1 and 2. D. Gordon on deck. And that's up and away 2-2.
I honestly, when I was in a situation like this as a pitcher, not the bunter, I didn't want my infielders having to move around 4, 5, 6 times. I wanted the pitcher to put the bunt down and make a play. Now, I had Keith on one side, good defensive players, but you didn't want them to continue to have to run in.
Especially on a hot day.
Kohler gets the bunt away. Rivera makes the play to first, so it's a successful sacrifice. 2-3, moving the runners to second and third. 2-4 on the sacrifice.
Good job by Kohler.
Ronnie, did you always feel that he threw 2 fastballs, had 1 and 2?
Yeah.
And you got a pitch to waste. Did you ever feel when you had a pitcher up there that wasn't a good bunter to throw a breaking ball because it's harder to bunt if you're a horrible bunter than suppose it's a straight fastball?
Yeah, but once you get to 2-2, you didn't want to mess around there and go to 3-2 because then you could make a mistake that could be crushing.
So now a big spot for Lugo, the tying and go-ahead runs in scoring position with 2 out. And D. Gordon, bunting? Come on. You're in a position where a base hit to the outfield could give your team the lead.
Last year's batting champ.
I mean, bunting's a big part of his game, but it's not the spot for it.
Well, you said the numbers that Ozuna has in his last few games. He's hitting a buck and change.
By the way, we saw this that play from Cesar Hernandez the other day.
Precisely.
1-1 to Gordon. You throw all the tennis rackets in the back.
Well, you got to have the lid, though, just in case it rains. Very expensive.
Gordon lifts one to left. Cespedes has it measured. Side retired. Lugo sidesteps trouble for a second straight inning. And keeps the Mets ahead 3-2 in the fourth. As New York's best sports writers get you ready for tomorrow's Mets-Marlins game with up-to-the-minute reports straight from Citi Field on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, tomorrow at 5, only on SNY. And you know what happens tomorrow, right?
Oh, I do know.
We go al fresco tomorrow.
That's right. No.
Into the promenade upstairs.
Oh, I thought you meant we could go al fresco.
That means being outside, no. Keith. Out of the bunker and into the promenade.
Very nice.
There we go, up there. Not there. Can you tell us straight, Keith? Not the booth.
Oh, where?
But above.
Where are we?
Above.
Oh,
Here.
Right here?
No, next row.
And up there. Somewhere up there.
Not the second tank above.
I think the upper, yeah.
We're in the upper tank again.
Off the glove of Kohler, but he corrals it and throws out Loney for the first time.
You know what I just found out, this new telestrator? I need to use this pen because the fingers don't work.
You didn't get the training? I thought when they installed the telestrator that you got training.
Do the circle here, though.
Who's that, Mullion?
Do the circle. That way you can show where it is.
Oh,
so push the circle.
Who's that, Mullion?
Oh, very nice.
Who was that?
Oh, I like that. Spot shadow.
Love it. All right, enough. Or I can do the cone of silence. The Gary Cone of silence.
That never works.
There's a cone of silence.
That's like a bunch of dunces.
Oh gosh.
Again. Wonder Rene Rivera, who popped up his first time up. You know, the funny thing is that Keith has his telestrator, but they have the override down in the
Yes, they do.
So it's kind of like when your kid does the connect the dots.
Yes.
And they think they've actually drawn the bird. So Keith thinks that he's telestrated.
No, I know.
The truck really does it for him.
So, my good friend and our good friend Sal Marciano, formerly of NBC, ABC, Big Sal, he just texted and said, boys, in '78, Figueroa was 20-9.
Inside ball 4 and Rivera's on. First walk of the night for Kohler. who is prone to the bases on balls. 3.8 walks per 9 innings this year. In fact, only 5 pitchers in the league have walked more batters than Kohler. And that'll give Lugo a chance to try and get a bunt down. Well, the Mets caught the Marlins in the standings last night. They're each 2.5 behind the Cardinals for the second wild card. Pittsburgh lost one to the Cubs, and they're down early 2-0 in the second. The Cardinals are in Milwaukee. No score in the second.
Oh,
and a hit and run play.
How about that?
And Lugo fouled it off. Rivera was in motion.
Now what Rivera can't do there, if it's a hit and run, you can't get out in the middle of nowhere land out there.
He left a little too early.
Yes, he did.
I wonder how many times he's been asked to run a hit and run.
Well, the first baseman came in for the bunt, so he figured since the first baseman came in, he could just take off, but Kohler could have stepped off.
And Lugo swinging the bat again, so not being asked to bunt on either of the first 2 pitches.
Terry's been letting his pitchers take a couple rips. Very unpredictable, Mr. Collins.
Lugo is 1 for 6 in the big leagues. Lifetime was 4 for 35 in the minors.
It's very interesting. Now put down a bunt. Yep.
And he laid off 1-2. Tom Kohler came out of Stony Brook University, an 18th round draft pick in 2008, a guy who's had to fight uphill his entire career and has done a nice job the last several seasons establishing himself at the back of that Marlins rotation.
Oh,
and he gets the curveball in to strike out Lugo for the second out. Third strikeout for Kohler.
Lugo was not bunting there?
Not. I think he's got a bunt. Yeah.
Well, now Reyes is already 2 for 2 tonight.
There's the 2 hits. First one was a ground ball between third and short, just to the left of Prado at third, who was playing in. And there was a sinker right there. Look at Jose just beginning to reach for it on the right of your screen. He wound up letting go with one hand and hitting a bullet to right field. Red hot.
And his bat has really picked up from the left side of the plate. He was hitting well right-handed for a long time, but now the left side is catching up. And Kohler behind him 2-0.
You notice Kohler's motion, Ronnie, when he gets ready to, hands are coming forward, he kind of jerks his head a little bit.
He does.
As a hitter, that's the kind of guy that looks like he's going to throw it through a brick wall, but doesn't, because that head action just makes it look like he's going to throw a bullet.
Like he's rearing back and firing.
John Denny had that. You can be fooled by it.
That's ripped into right field. A base hit for Reyes. Rivera going to third as Ichiro gets it into second. And the Mets have runners at the corners with 2 down, and Reyes is 3 for 3.
Well, once again, top of the order. That ball's up right there again. Jose in pull mode. Towards the end of the bat, first and third, sets it up for last week's player of the week as Dribble Cabrera.
Well, this is going to be interesting to see if Kohler changes the game plan against Asdrubal, who's seen 2 first pitch fastballs, hit a 2-run homer on the first one, and got a base hit to right center on the second one.
You bunt him over, you got to run.
Well, can't assume.
Just saying.
So the Mets up 3-2, first and third and 2 out. Cabrera just raging hot right now. And a check swing foul on a first pitch slider.
Well, don't throw it. Wanted to get the sinker away and missed on the inner half. And right out of the gate, Mr. Cabrera continues his hot hitting.
That's we're down 2-0 at that point. Christian Yelich hit a 2-run homer in the top of the first, and Cabrera immediately got it even. curveball down, a ball and a strike.
Gets on the balls of his feet on that front foot, almost elevates his heel, much like Martin Prado. A little rocking there to get rhythm.
Fuller keeping that slider in on him, and it's 1-2.
Both of these pitchers have spent most of the game pitching themselves into trouble and trying to pitch themselves out of it.
Fuller had a very similar jam in the second inning, first and third and 2 out. He struck out Cespedes to get out of it. It's 1-2 coming, and he manages to waste it away, but he fouled it off his foot in the process.
You don't want to hyperextend the knee. Cuidado. It means careful in Spanish, I believe. Don't quote me on that. There's Ray.
It's the hardest working man in baseball, Ray Ramirez.
Oh, off his shin, off the top, the very bottom of the shin.
Now that'll balance out the pain in the other leg.
Yeah.
Rivera at third, Reyes at first with 2 down. And Cabrera wastes away the fastball. By the way, for Reyes, the 3-hit game tonight, 4th time in the last 11 games he's had 3 or more hits. He just keeps on getting on base. Reyes' batting average 50 points in the last 12 days. There goes Reyes. Cabrera strikes out, or did he? And apparently he did, but he didn't run to first base, and that's the 3rd out. I'm not sure who was confused or why, but there were 2 outs, so Cabrera could have run to first, but chose not to. I don't know if that's in deference to the knee or if he got confused at how many out there were.
Or Gary didn't know the rule.
Well, with first base occupied and less than 2 out, you can't run. But with 2 out, you can. And Cabrera didn't. And that ends the inning. Tri-State Ford dealers who invite you to test drive a new Ford. You'll discover why Ford is the total package. We go to the 5th inning. Mets with a 3-2 lead. Marcell Ozuna leads off against Seth Lugo, who has tiptoed through trouble the last 2 innings. And the curveball outside for ball 1. Ozuna was hit by a pitch his last time up and glared out at Lugo after getting struck on that elbow protector. And Lugo evens the count with a slider, 1-1. Martin Prado on deck, then Christian Yelich in the 5th. And Ozuna bounces one that Lugo's able to reach up for. It's got to be hard to do backpedaling over the hill run.
He's a good athlete, Lugo. For a big guy, that's a tough play. He made it look easy.
I mean, you got the rubber there, you've got the rosin bag, you got the scraper behind the mound.
But he backed down, made it easy. Crow hopped, an accurate throw. Nimble for a big man.
Jack be nimble, Jack be quick.
Seth. Second good defensive play Lugo's made tonight. 1 out now. Prado, who doubled and scored back in the 1st, flied out with 2 men on in the 3rd. That was a big out for Lugo. And a fastball strike. In the 3rd inning, Gordon had a leadoff double. Ozuna was hit by a pitch, and Lugo gave up a couple of hard hit balls to Prado and Yelich, but was able to get through it. 4th inning, 2 men on and 1 out. He got through it again. Seth Lugo this year struggled in Las Vegas as a starter, found success as a reliever, and so the Mets called him up and put him in the bullpen, figuring that was going to be his niche. Was not even considered as a starter until the Mets had a need. Was pressed into service in San Francisco, did well there, earned him a 2nd start in St. Louis, threw 5 scoreless innings there, and now his first Citi Field start tonight.
Makes sense for these 2016 Mets, though, right? Move a guy to the bullpen because you need bullpen help. He comes up and he ends up being a starter for you.
Everything that's not planned. I mean, this is the time of year when Bartolo Colon was supposed to be in the bullpen, and Zach Wheeler was supposed to be the 5th member of the electric rotation with Harvey and Syndergaard and DeGrom and Matz. It's not worked out that way. 3-2 now to Prado. Matt Harvey was in the building today. The Mets took their team photo.
Oh, those are, I don't know, but if you remember team photos during the season, Keith, they were just, you just didn't want to do it.
Well, I remember one in particular.
Hit hard down to 3rd. Reyes has it. And that's the 2nd out.
That was in spring training.
That's a different team photo.
Oh, okay. There they are.
Nobody fussing or fighting.
That's right. Look at them, all hands behind their back. Very nice.
This is how the conversation goes.
All the hair guys in the back row.
Tall guys, all the pitchers, usually in the back.
Right.
This is how the conversation goes. You'll come in, you'll see your uniform in the locker. You're like, how come the uniform's out already? Team picture day. Oh, come on. Not today.
So it didn't matter which day it was. It was always not today.
It was 25 guys complaining.
You got to put the uniform on. You know, you can't work the crossword puzzle.
Yelich lays off the slider, and it's 1-1. Well, Yelich has been a hard out tonight. Hit the opposite field 2-run homer in the 1st inning. Then he had a bullet to center field that De Aza caught his last time up. Yelich hit his 16th home run in the 1st inning. That's as many home runs as he got the last 2 years combined. Hits one off the fist down to 3rd. And Reyes guns him down. Side retired. 1-2-3 inning for Seth Lugo. And that gets us halfway with the Mets leading 3-2. Recap: Christian Yelich homered in the top of the first as Drupal Cabrera homered in the bottom of the first. Wilmer Flores added an RBI single. Seth Lugo has done the rest. And the Mets have a 3-2 lead. The scores that matter are in the middle there for the Mets. The Pirates are trailing to Kyle Hendricks and the Cubs. Anthony Rizzo a home run. Cardinals and Brewers no score. Cespedes 0 for 2 tonight. Has flied out and struck out. And he chases the slider, 0-1. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Max Scherzer, ho-hum, is working on a no-hitter in the 6th against the Phillies.
Just us 2 or 3 a year.
Let's see if Scherzer's pitching tonight. That means he would go Sunday night against the Mets, right before they have to go to Cincinnati.
The 1 o'clock game, right?
8 o'clock Sunday night in New York, 1 o'clock Monday afternoon in Cincinnati. Craziness. Cespedes lays off 1-2.
Well, I wonder if any team one day will pull a Greg Popovich and have to play so late on Sunday. They get in so late they don't play any of their starters.
Well, you could do that actually because the rosters will have expanded by then, so you'll have more players available. That's a rocket foul. Going to go up into the promenade.
And you say to yourself, why would you do that? It's self-defeating. You know, you're not taking your best chance to win the game. But you're also putting, in my opinion, players in harm's way.
Well, especially guys who have nagging injuries, which the Mets have plenty of. By the way, Freddie Galvis just doubled to break up the Scherzer no-hit bid in the 6th. It was us.
I think the Phillies are not going to be a team that are going to play the spoiler. I could be wrong. You never know what can happen in a month. But the way they played here in a 3-game series against the Mets, it looked like they had one foot on the bus.
Well, it's hard to know, but one thing is for certain. If you look at the numbers, the Mets have got a schedule that certainly favors them. 6 games with the Phillies, 6 games with the Braves, a series with the Reds. The Twins come in here for a series. So they've got a lot of teams in last or next to last place who they'll be playing in September. Ooh, popped up into shallow right. Ichiro coming in. And caught it in fair territory for the first out.
So both pitchers have settled down after a rocky first inning, couple innings actually. They got out of 2 jams, did both of them together in the second.
We'll go 80 pitches deep into his night, talking with his battery mate. Mets would be thrilled to get one more good inning out of Lugo. Now Jay Bruce faces Kohler. Bruce doubled and scored the go-ahead run in the first inning. All the scoring in this game came in the first. Jay flied out to left in the third, 1 for 2. And he fouls off the changeup, 1-1. This is Jay's 25th game as a Met. He has 2 multiple hit games.
Good slider right there. To try to put Bruce's year into perspective before he came here, he has 58 extra base hits. Cespedes has 48. That's the kind of year he was having.
Oh, his first half in Cincinnati is the best year, at least the best half a year he had in his career. He was leading the league in RBIs at the time of the trade. And remember, that comes on the heels of 2 down seasons in a row for Bruce in Cincinnati. And he strikes out on the slider. So Kohler has his 5th strikeout, and there are 2 out in the 5th.
Chasing the bad slider after a good slider for a strike to get ahead.
Well, those are the career highs for Jay. 34 home runs in 2012. You see all those numbers from 12, 13, 14. But 14 and 15 were not good years for him. And then he rebounded big time the first half this year, but has struggled since the trade. Curveball in for a strike to De Aza. Remember in Jay's introductory press conference here, he said that his knee was healthy for the first time in 3 years, and that's why he had such a good first half. Nice grab by Tom Goodwin on the carom. It's outstanding.
I think Keith has analyzed what he's going through right now. From a pitcher's standpoint, I would say Bruce, to me, looks like he's in swing mode. What does that mean? Is that he is overly aggressive, wants to swing the bat, and if you're a pitcher facing that kind of hitter and you get ahead, you don't have to throw a strike.
Precisely. When you're out in front and you're pressing, everything speeds up. A hitter has more of a tendency to chase that bad breaking ball in the dirt. You know, when you're red hot, you take it, and it's a ball, and you're, instead of being 1 and 2 or striking out, you're 2 and 1, you're 3 and 1, and hitting in a hitter's count. Changes the whole program.
He has had very few hitters count since he's been here.
Yeah.
It's not easy, you know, being a bat or arm for hire. You know why you've been traded for. You put a lot of pressure. Outside pressures come in, and you got to be able to handle all that and rake.
And probably harder, and Keith can attest to this, when it's the first time. Right? Guys have been traded 2 or 3 times. They get used to the concept, but Bruce had been in the Reds organization since the day he was drafted.
Correct. And then you're coming over to a team. You've been playing for a second division team, and now you're coming over into a team that's strike 3 right there and a slider in the dirt.
And De Aza beat it out. Wow. Realmuto took his time, and De Aza conceded nothing, and he beats the throw to first.
That is inexcusable. Excellent hustle by De Aza. But from Realmuto, this is just unforgivable. Boy, that's embarrassing. You got now, just take your time. Too late, pal.
Well, remember the last inning, Cabrera did not run on a 3rd strike in the dirt, and maybe after that, Realmuto figured De Aza wouldn't run either. But Alejandro crossed him up. It's a strikeout wild pitch, and the Mets get a 2-out base run.
That's just simply getting caught flat-footed, Gary. There's no excuse for that.
So the inning prolonged, and Wilmer Flores steps in. Wilmer drove in a run with the first inning single, 1 for 2 tonight. And the curveball drilled to deep left field. Back goes Yelich near the wall, and it's off the fence. De Aza digging for 3rd. He'll be held up there as Flores pulls in at second base with a ringing double. Second hit of the night for Wilmer. His 11th double of the year.
Hanging slider. Wilmer stays in. Hanging curve, actually, excuse me. And that was very close to being a 2-run tie, and Flores right there is not pumping his fist because of the double. He just realized a little bit more. It would have been a 2-run home run, and a big blow that would have been.
Tim Teufel had no choice but to stop De Aza at 3rd, even though there were 2 out. That ball came off the wall so quickly to Yelich. So now Loney the batter, and they're going to walk him intentionally and load the bases for Rene Rivera. Even though Loney has been ice cold, they'd rather face the right-hand batting Rivera.
I am inclined to agree.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is that because of the hustle of De Aza, we watch, hundreds of games every year. Never see that play safe at first, and players are asked all the time, why do you have to even run? It's an automatic play. Sometimes it's not.
Well, that's why you always run hard, because you never know.
It's like the intentional walk. Everybody says, why do you have to throw 4 pitches? Well, I've seen pitchers throw it away.
So when just the other day, somebody threw a wild pitch on an intentional walk. So the Mets have the bases loaded with 2 out, an inning that should have been over, but for the slow play of Realmuto. And now he's got to talk to his pitcher about how to get through an inning where he's been forced to work harder and now has a huge out to get. Mets have the bullpen cranking just in case they want to bat for Lugo, who's on deck. Rivera tonight has popped up and walked. Hansel Robles, first man up in the Mets bullpen. So De Aza at third, Flores at second, and Loney at first. And Rivera grounds one slowly. Tough play for Prado. Barehands it and throws, and he got him at first. Side retired. Prado could have let it roll. It might have gone foul, but he knew that Rivera didn't run well, and he makes a beautiful barehand play to throw out Rene and keep the Mets from scoring in the fifth.
Big league play right here. Now Rivera doesn't run well. Big play.
And Rivera might have been shaken up a little bit as he stretched for the bag. You see him grab at the back of his left leg after coming across the bag. Well, Rene Rivera is going to stay in the game. This is a terrific play by Prado.
Boy, I'll say. And this ball, I think, stays fair, Gare. Just a fabulous play.
So how muddy that ball was, going back to what we were showing before.
Yeah.
Rivera appeared to grab his left hamstring as he stretched for the bag. And Prado really bailed out Real Muto, whose mistake almost blew up an inning for the Marlins. That should have been out of that inning 1-2-3, but Kohler had to work hard and Prado saved him, and so it's still a one-run game. Meanwhile, Seth Lugo attacking the sixth inning, facing Xavier Scruggs, who's 1 for 2 tonight. Still throwing hard.
He's not afraid out there, I'll tell you that. I play pitches to contact. I like the job he's been doing. Both clubs have left men on base. 8 runners left on base for the Mets, 5 for the Marlins.
And the curveball strikes out Scruggs. Third strikeout of the night for Lugo. Second time he's gotten Scruggs. Let's check in with the studio. Larry Ridley has a game break brought to you by your local Honda dealers. Here's Ichiro Suzuki, who's 0 for 2. Grounded out, flied out. And a fastball from Lugo for a strike. Jerry Blevins is up in the Mets bullpen. As Lugo at 85 pitches through 5 1/3. The most pitches Lugo's thrown in a big league game, through 82 in his last start. Ichiro has been ice cold since getting to 3,000. He did have 2 hits last night, but over his last 16 games hitting just 186. There's Blevins, who has been a big answer for the Mets as their bullpen has worn down later in the year. Off the corner with the fastball, 1-2. Ichiro now with 3,011 hits. Dustin McGowan starting to loosen in the Miami bullpen. And he strikes out. Back-to-back strikeouts for Lugo to start the 6th inning.
Well, that's not a good at bat for Ichiro here.
Good movement on that pitch, though, from Lugo, as he's stronger now than he was in the beginning.
Maybe he can get beyond 6 if he can get Real Muto here. Right now, the way the Mets bullpen is patched together, you can get to the 8th. Boy, that gives his team a huge advantage. Real Muto flies one to right. Bruce coming over toward the line. Side retired. Strong inning for Seth Lugo, who's now retired 8 in a row. Maybe he can go past the 6th. Still 3-2 New York. Of the 4 quarterbacks, the defensive line, the secondary, and how the roster is shaping up on a new Jets blog podcast. Only on the jetsblog.com, featured on sny.tv. There's your Verizon Mets box score. Jose Reyes and his Asdrubal Cabrera continue to do an unbelievable job setting the table. They're 5 of 6 between them. Cabrera, a 2-run homer. Wilmer Flores, an RBI hit. Seth Lugo done after 6 innings. He got the handshakes in the dugout after 6 strong innings in his 3rd big league start.
Well, he was getting better. 8th and 9th place hitter coming up, but today's game.
Short bench. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah.
They might not give him one more. One more inning.
Curtis Granderson bats for Lugo. And Kohler works him inside for ball 1. Curtis is 1 for 9 as a pinch hitter this year. Was on base 3 times last night with a single and 2 walks. And he hits this one out to center field. Hit pretty well. Ozuna back near the wall. It's out of here! Curtis Granderson into the Big Apple seats in center field. Home run number 21 for Granderson. And the Mets now have a 4-2 lead.
Like I said, that was a great move taking Lugo out and hitting Granderson for him.
Boy, talk about make your manager look good. Curtis has got to feel good about this. It's been a struggle for him all year. Big insurance run.
Now Reyes strokes one down the left field line. That may fall, and it does for a base hit. It goes to the corner. Reyes' 4th hit of the game, and he pulls it at second with an opposite field double.
Well, well, well. Here's the home run from Grandy. Stayed back. Fastball down out over the plate. Deepest part of the park, no doubt.
Second career pinch hit home run for Granderson. His first came as a Yankee 4 years ago. And the Mets have now hit 9 pinch hit home runs this year as Granderson gives the Mets a 2-run lead.
Well, it's important now, right now. 4-2. It's a big run out there. Over or in.
What a big night for Reyes. 3 singles and now a double.
Red hot.
Herrera's 2 for 3 with a 2-run homer. And as Drubel takes a curveball in the dirt for ball 1.
I don't know what Prado was thinking playing on the grass with a red hot hitter in Cabrera, a left-hand hitter at third base. Prado. There's not a bunt going on here.
That's now with 10 hits on the night. And the curveball swung and missed. 1-1.
Kohler's always been pretty good at keeping the ball in the yard. As you watch this breaking ball elude Cabrera's bat. But with a couple of home runs tonight, that's 4 straight games now he's allowed home runs.
Cabrera in the first inning. Granderson here in the 6th. Nobody out in the inning with Reyes at second. And time asked for. By the way, Reyes with his 4 hits tonight has raised his batting average over 300 for the season. He has been spectacular. They do not quite have the speed of the Reyes of 2010 and 2011, but he's hitting. Cabrera grounds one down to first, a foul ball. And that's the second strike on Cabrera.
Yep, clearly foul.
Paul Emmel right on top of it. .96 pitches now for Kohler. Marlins have the bullpen ready if needed. And Realmuto blocks that one. Reyes had thoughts about moving but stayed put. 2-2. One thing that hasn't changed about Reyes at age 33, he is still a boundless bundle of energy.
Yes. The boyish enthusiasm for the game.
Hair may be a little redder now. Cabrera stays in there. By the way, Curtis Granderson, before that pinch hit home run, his last home run at Citi Field came on July 4th against Tom Kohler.
Huh.
Wow.
And now nearly 2 months later, he hits his next Citi Field home run against the same pitcher. Good at bat for Cabrera. He works it full with Cespedes looming on deck. So as a pitcher, you've got a hot hitter at the plate. You got the best hitter in the lineup on deck. How do you handle this?
Well, I think that Kohler's best pitch to try to get out of this is his curveball, and it's something that you wouldn't think he'd throw with Cespedes up next. But I don't think he's going to challenge Cabrera with the same fastball he threw that was a home run in his first at bat.
His 100th pitch of the night, and he throws the breaking ball, and he walks Cabrera to put 2 men on for Cespedes.
Now he's got nowhere to hide.
Well, it also might be the end of the line for him. Let's see if Don Mattingly will go further with his starter. Now he's already looking at his lineup card. He's going to make a change. Maybe.
And ironically enough, Kohler has handled Cespedes tonight.
And a flip-flop.
Third walk of the night for Kohler, and that'll be the end of his tenure in this game. Dustin McGowan has been throwing in the bullpen. Jeff Francoeur is coming on the field as part of a double switch. 4-2 Mets, threatening for more in the 6th. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. NY is brought to you by Sherwin-Williams. Stop by your local Sherwin-Williams store for all your painting needs. By Geico, over 75 years of savings and service. And by GMC. See the pros at your tri-state GMC dealers. GMC, we are professional grade. Double switch for the Marlins. Jeff Francoeur comes in to play right field. He'll bat 9th, and the new pitcher Dustin McGowan will hit 6th in the order.
Well, really the number to look at is against right-handed hitters. 143 average in 44 games for McGowan this year.
Now 34 years old, the former Toronto Blue Jay who pitched a little in Philadelphia last year, comes in to face Cespedes with 2 on and nobody out. The Mets with a chance to blow this game up in the 6th inning, leading it 4-2. Cespedes 0 for 3 tonight after his walk-off home run last night. And he goes after the first pitch slider, 0-1.
Interesting. Usually Cespedes takes the first pitch, and I think that he swings. He's looking for something middle in. He's a power hitter in this ball game. Hit a bomb, a 3-run bomb, and willing to go 0-1. And I think it's smart because you can lull a pitcher. Okay, Cespedes takes a lot, then he sneaks a swing on your first pitch.
This is a guy he knows. He's 4 for 6 in his career against McGowan. And he gets the fastball, but he swings through it, and it's 0-2.
Pretty good fastball right there, up and in.
He's always had a great arm, McGowan. Guy that injuries have really beset his career. You know, if there's an Achilles heel for Cespedes, it's that fastball up.
Reyes at second, Cabrera at first, and nobody out. And Cespedes lays off and kicks away from Real Muto, and the runners move up. Second wild pitch of the night. And now runners at second and third, and nobody out.
Well, he did everything right. He just kind of overplayed the break. Remember, that breaking ball is always going to tail. It's going to hit and skid in the opposite direction.
So now the Marlins have to bring their infield in. Already down by 2 runs in the 6th inning. Lots of holes for Cespedes. And he cracks one down the line. Foul. Jay Bruce on deck. This is where the Marlins really suffer for not having an extra lefty in their bullpen. They have just Mike Dunn, who pitched last night, and he is not up. So McGowan's going to have to face the lefties, Bruce and De Aza. Cespedes takes high, 2-2.
He's got a good live fastball, McGowan.
Kohler went 5 innings plus, allowed 10 hits, 4 runs so far, 3 walks, 1 intentional, 6 strikeouts, a wild pitch, and 2 home runs. Another rough outing for Kohler against his hometown team. And Cespedes grounds one to third. Prado checks the runners and gets the out, 1 away.
Well, I believe you got to. Oh gosh, you walk Bruce. With struggling Bruce, if you walk him and pitch to De Aza, who can run, the double play. It's tough to double him up. It's a tough call right here. I'd be inclined to. I think they're going to walk Bruce, but I would go after Bruce. He's struggling.
McGowan has never faced Bruce. He's retired De Aza 3 times without giving up a hit. So Don Mattingly will take that under advisement and walk Bruce. So this will be the 2nd intentional walk in the last 2 innings issued by the Marlins. And De Aza will get a chance with the bases full.
Well, this sets up De Aza again. He's been so good.
And remember, it was De Aza and his hustle that might have hastened Kohler's exit from this game. You know, if he doesn't run as hard as he did to first base on the strikeout in the 5th, Kohler has a 1-2-3 inning. Maybe he fares better here in the 6th. But De Aza's dash to the bag to beat Real Muto's belated throw changed everything.
De Aza coming into this game, his last 26, he had driven in 13.
Game 3 of this series tomorrow night. Bartolo Colon goes for his 13th win against David Phelps. Our coverage begins tomorrow night at 6 o'clock right here on SNY, and we'll be working from the promenade upstairs. Should be a beautiful night for an outdoor broadcast. So here's De Aza with the bases loaded and 1 out. 0 for 3 tonight, but reached on that strikeout wild pitch in the 5th. De Aza hitting 5th in the order for the first time this year and only the 2nd time in his career, and he gets a big spot here to be an RBI guy.
Coming in now, Echeverria at short. They're halfway. The middle infielders in at the corners.
And Real Muto wants to talk to McGowan before they go after De Aza.
This is putting the defense at a disadvantage here, the infield defense, but you have no choice.
Well, I mean, De Aza is fast, but he's not a burner. I don't know why you wouldn't just play a regular double play depth.
A regular double play depth, and if you have to come in on the ball, then you try to make a play at home.
Got a very difficult guy to get out at home plate on a bleeder with Reyes' speed.
No more head first slides, though. The home plate. And that's a fastball strike on the inside from McGowan. De Aza 0 for 3 in his career against Dustin McGowan. And De Aza cracks one into right field for a base hit. That brings in Reyes. Cabrera will be waved home The throw to the plate, and now Cabrera goes back to third. We got 2 runners at third base. And Cabrera will give himself up for the second out. Well, Timmy Tuffle was waving Cabrera home, but he just didn't feel he could score against Frank Core's arm, and he was probably right. But Bruce just figured he was going and ran up right behind him.
I think Bruce saw.
How can you run Cabrera? He's barely in the lineup.
I don't understand why Timmy waved him, but he did wave him. Especially with Frank Core throwing.
There's no hesitation. He's sending him.
He just had to shut it down.
And you can't fault Bruce. Bruce saw Tuffle. Now, one thing that Cabrera could have done, how about getting in a little bit of, I know you got a bad knee, maybe just try.
That's why. You don't want to get in a run down there and aggravate it.
Right. So
Reyes scores on the base hit by Diaza to make it 5-2. Cabrera is tagged out for the second out. Bruce winds up at third.
You know, we talked about it, Keith, you talked about in the open, players managing themselves within a game because of injury. Tuffle had to do that there himself.
Yeah. Flores is 2 for 3 tonight, a single and a double. He's driven in a run.
Well, once again, Diaza really contributing. And it's good to see. I mean, he just had such a woeful first half.
Frank Core on the fly to the plate. We've seen that before.
Yeah, he overthrew the cutoff man.
This was very casual. Diaza was thinking of taking second.
Flores lays off the slider. Ball and a strike. Oh, Wilmer's had himself a fine night as he continues to produce against right-handed pitching in a way that he has not for most of the year.
The 2-out knock in the first inning.
Doubled off the wall and left his last time up. Didn't miss a home run by much. And he grounds that one foul. 1-2. So 2 runs home in this 6th inning. Granderson led off the inning with a pinch hit home run. Reyes doubled. Cabrera walked. They moved up on a wild pitch. Then after Bruce was intentionally walked, Diaz's base hit plated the second run of the inning. James Loney would be next. And Flores hits this in the air to right. Frank Core is right there waiting for it. That retires the side, but the Mets cash a couple in the bottom of the 6th. Curtis Granderson, just his 2nd career pinch hit home run. Number 21 for Granderson extends the Mets lead. 5-2 as the Mets go to the bullpen for the 7th inning. Tonight's starters, Seth Lugo in line for his second consecutive win with 6 solid innings. Tom Kohler gave up 5 runs in his 5 innings of work. And now with the Mets going to the bullpen, Curtis Granderson will stay in the game in right field, and Hansel Robles will get another crack at it. Mets double switching to maybe get 2 innings out of Robles, but he has really been struggling lately.
Well, he went through such a great stretch for over a month and now has been really struggling, as Gary said, the last few outings.
And Danny Echeverria, first man to face him in the 7th inning. Well, you have to believe that Terry will have a very short halter on Robles, especially in a game this close. And in fact, he keeps his bullpen busy behind him. Jeff Francoeur is in the 9 hole. He's on deck, and then D. Gordon. So for the Mets, the pitcher goes in the 4 hole as Jay Bruce comes out of the game. And Granderson stays in after his pinch hit home run. Jerry Blevins was up in the last inning and up again. Echeverria has flied out and walked, and he grounds one right at Flores, and Wilmer throws him out, 1 away. Now Francoeur. Does he still have the best right field arm in the game? I mean, Puig's in the minor leagues. Is there anybody else?
I was thinking Josh Reddick. Have you ever seen him throw?
Yeah.
Bautista, when he's right, he's got a good arm. But Suzuki earlier in his career.
Right. Not anymore, I don't think.
And Frenchie was one of the more animated Phillies when Robles went through his troubles in Philadelphia.
That's right. No quick pitch here. And a fastball strike, and it's 0-2. It's the last time you saw Frenchie take 2 strikes. Maybe never.
The world's gone mad here.
'98 from Robles. Throwing harder. The ball is, for the most part, down on the knees. And Robles going with that fastball.
Didn't retire a batter in his last outing against the Phillies on Sunday, trying to get himself back into his manager's good graces. But right now, Terry doesn't have a whole lot of options. Addison Reed's looking a little worn out these days. Jerry's Familia, of course, has been great in the 9th inning. Jerry Blevins has been his prime lefty.
But in some ways, maybe Robles is the most important cog because you can use him in the 6th or 7th inning.
And he can use him for multiple innings at a time, which I think is the goal here tonight if he pitches a good 7th. 1-2 to Francoeur, and he struck him out on the high fastball. Got Frenchie to chase upstairs, 2 men down.
Well, if they can get Robles back on track as Frenchie chases the high cheddar, that would be a big lift for the bullpen, because he's the one that can give you multiple innings. He's got the rubber arm. Then you can nurse and strategically use Henderson and keep him healthy and rested.
Gordon hits a slow ground ball. Flores has to hustle in. The quick throw, and he got him. Side retired. Nice play, Wilmer Flores. And Robles has himself a very effective 1-2-3 inning. That takes us to the 7th inning stretch. Flores knew he had to hurry against the speed of Gordon and got him by half a stride. 5-2 New York. We go to the bottom of the 7th. James Loney leads off against Dustin McGowan. Loney's 0 for 2 and an intentional walk tonight. Tell me if you've heard this story before. Jed Jerko just hit a home run.
Every night.
17 since the All-Star break, 24 for the year.
No, Wainwright 5 shutout innings so far.
On his birthday. Cardinals up 1-0 on the Brewers in the 6th. And Loney loses the bat getting out of the way of that inside pitch.
So, Gary, when you are in a stretch run and you've got teams in front of you, the idea first, if you're under 500, is to get to 500 and then to peck away and climb the ladder and get some teams behind you. Well, the Mets are on a verge of putting, as a ground ball to first base, if you're 3-1 on your scorecard, the Mets are on the verge of putting one team behind them, and if they win tonight, that'll put the Marlins behind them, and that will only leave the Pirates in front of them and the Cardinals.
And the drive around the majors is presented by Chevy, and the Pirates trail in Chicago 3-0 to Kyle Hendricks, who leads the National League in ERA. We mentioned the Jerko home run. The Giants, who right now are in the first wild card spot, throw Johnny Cueto against Zach Greinke and the Diamondbacks tonight.
I hope I didn't rush you with that around the majors.
I thought your timing was perfect, Keith.
I just totally forgot. I knew it was coming and I slipped my mind. When you're walking us through the nuances of a pennant run, we'll wait on you. And thank you. Oh, you've been there too.
It's all a matter of who happens to hold the baton at that particular moment. Or as they said in Lord of the Flies, I've got the conch.
Yes.
0-2 to Rivera. Curtis Granderson on deck. As long as you've got the conch, Keith, you can keep on talking.
Maybe that's what Gary Owen and Laughlin had in his ear.
Big shell. I always enjoyed the clocks in the background.
Yes, they were fun. I've actually got in DVD the entire the series. You can get it.
Laughing.
Yep, Laughing. And it's interesting the first year how they shot from behind them into the audience. They tried something different and it just didn't work. It was a kind of innovative from a directing point of view, I guess. Or I thought for a moment maybe that Greg Picker went back in time. It was his idea. Our producer.
Think of all the talent that was on that series. Lily Tomlin, Goldie Hawn.
Well, the originals were just phenomenal. And Dean Martin discovered them, you know, in Las Vegas, Rowan and Martin.
That's lined the other way, and Rivera's got a base hit. So the Mets' 11th hit of the night belongs to Rene Rivera. And now Curtis Granderson will bat for the second time. Curtis hit his second career pinch hit home run leading off in the 6th inning to make it a 4-2 game. It was actually the 12th hit for the Mets. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Mets were held to 7 hits each of the last 2 days, which slowed down what had been a nightly double-digit hit barrage. And Curtis takes the fastball inside for McGowan. And now McGowan behind 2-0. Tom Kohler went the first 5 innings plus through 100 pitches, gave up 5 runs and 10 hits, 3 walks, 1 intentional, 6 strikeouts. And in danger of falling to 2-7 lifetime against the Mets. And that's on the corner, 2-1. Well, Jose Reyes is on deck, sitting on a 4-hit night. Outside, 3-1 to Granderson. That's hit in the air to right center field. Back goes Frank Corn to the warning track. Back at the wall. It's out of here. Second of the night for Curtis Granderson. Two home runs off the bench for Granderson, his 22nd of the year, and now the Mets lead it 7-2. His 20th career multiple home run game.
Go figure. Pennant fever. Boy, these are all good signs if this team can start clicking on all cylinders.
Really the same pitch that Kohler threw to him. Fastball out and over the plate. Nieves is coming out not only to talk to his pitcher, but they need to get a pitcher up.
Austin Bryce, who was just called up yesterday, is beginning to throw in the Marlins bullpen. Well, Terry Collins said before the game today, right now he has 4 outfielders for 3 spots. Diaz is his best defensive center fielder, and he's hitting right now, so he's getting playing time, and that creates a bit of a squeeze, and it's going to get squeezier because Michael Conforto will be here Thursday. He's been tearing up AAA, and you have to figure that Conforto is going to get playing time as well. So, you know, competition proved to be a great thing for this team in the last 2 months last season. The only issue the Mets have with their outfield is that other than Cespedes and include Conforto in this mix, everybody's a left-hand hitter. Well, here's Reyes, who's had just 1 5-hit game in his career, and that came 10 years ago in a 14-inning game against the Braves. He's got 3 singles and a double tonight. He scored 2 runs. And as Reyes makes a bid for a 5-hit game tonight, it's interesting to note that today is the 17th anniversary of Edgardo Alfonso's 6-hit game in Houston. Wow. He had been the only player with a 6-hit game in Mets history until Wilmer Flores matched him this year. But Reyes strikes out on 3 pitches and is retired for the first time tonight. So that's the 2nd out of the inning. Well, here's your Verizon trivia question. We asked you who were the 2 Met pitchers who gave up the late home runs against the Marlins in the last game in 08, and I believe that was Schoenweiss and Ayala.
That's outstanding, Gary. I don't know how you do it.
Well, it was indelible. It was not a happy memory.
I left it at the gate when it was gone.
You remember who made the last out?
Right fielder.
Right. Number 19.
He played at University of Nevada.
Yes, he did.
Ryan Church.
That's it.
Well, maybe I didn't. Not so bad.
See? So what you're saying is that when
he hit it well too, I remember, right? To right center.
It was pretty well hit, yeah. That when Piazza and Seaver closed the gate, it closed your memory.
Yeah. Well, not the Big Shea, I'll tell you that. The place is missed.
As Dribble Cabrera set the tone for the Mets tonight. They were down 2-0 when they came to bat in the bottom of the first, and Cabrera belted a 2-run homer to get them even. Added a base hit in the 2nd and a walk in the 6th. So Cabrera is 2 for 3. Mets scored 3 runs in that first inning to take the lead. Scored 2 in the 6th and now 2 here in the 7th on a pair of Curtis Granderson home runs. 2-2 to Cabrera. But I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out with the Mets outfield over the next few weeks, and who plays and who sits.
I put this in my phone today. Terry's quote: "We have everyday players, but not everyday positions for all those players."
He said the league has not yet approved use of a rover.
That's right.
That's pulled toward the hole.
Nice.
Gordon with a nice stop and throws out Cabrera to end the inning. But Curtis Granderson's 2nd home run of the night extends the Mets lead. 20th time in his career that Curtis has hit 2 or more home runs in a game. Off the bench for a pair of long balls, and the Mets lead 7-2 going to the 8th. As the Brewers have 2 on in the bottom of the 6th after tying the game. 8th inning here. Hansel Robles worked a 1-2-3 7th. He'll stay on for the 8th to face Marcell Ozuna, who's 0 for 2 and been hit by a pitch tonight. The winner of this game tonight moves ahead of the other in the standings in the National League East in the wild card race. 2 teams right now moving in opposite directions. Mets trying for their 8th win in their last 10 games. The Marlins are 10-16 in August. Martin Prado on deck, then Christian Yelich against Robles in the 8th. And Ozuna fouls it back. Seth Lugo acquitted himself very well again tonight. 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a hit by a pitch, a home run. Worked himself out of a couple of tough jams.
And then you look at the little signs within the obvious signs of the game. Robles, can he get 6 outs in this ball game? He's already gotten 3. Get him moving in a positive direction.
Line toward the middle, and Cabrera can't make the connection. It goes off his glove, and Ozuna is safe.
And this is all about the knee here. This is a play that he puts in his back pocket. And he's a bit compromised out there. And it's a soft liner. And there's the lateral movement that he was talking about. So you can see him hop, skip, and a jump a little bit after the play. So
it's also he had to jump off the left leg, which he has that brace on.
And when he came down, you could see he was in discomfort. Scored a base hit for Ozuna. First base runner for the Marlins since the 4th inning. And now Prado doubled and scored back in the 1st when the Marlins got both their runs on a 2-run homer by Christian Yelich. They've had just 3 hits since that 1st inning. Nothing in 2 to Prado. Yelich waits next. When you talk about the encouraging signs for Robles,
Reyes with a reach, gets the out at second. The turn by Flores for the double play.
I haven't seen someone go to his left at third base in quite some time. Reyes showing really good range. 2 days in a row going to his left in the hole. Very nice. Playing a deep third base, granted, but still he's getting to it, and they turn the pair. Sweet.
and he hit Flores right in the chest with the throw too, which helped facilitate the double play. So 2 out and nobody on, and Yelich the batter. I was going to say, as we watch Prado's reaction,
you know what he's yelling at? Ozuna not taking out the middle infielder. That's out of the game, Martin. Out of the game. Done.
Or do you think he was screaming at Reyes for picking him out of the hole?
No, he's screaming at the runner of not breaking up that double play.
well, you can do it, but you risk the interference call if you do.
What else could he do right there? I mean,
I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that.
I just don't know if he was mad at Ozuna or angry that Reyes made the play. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Either way, beautiful play by Jose.
He certainly has made his share. Yelich loses the bat, which helicopters into the stands behind the Mets dugout. It hit an empty seat, fortunately, and that man has a prize. I was going to say before in regard to Robles, and this goes for Curtis Granderson as well, it is really easy as an observer of this game to make definitive judgments about players based on a stretch of failure.
Yeah.
But it's a long season and things can turn around.
And a bad August can turn into the most important September.
Particularly for guys with track records. And Granderson has that. Robles less of a track record. One and 2 to Yelich. And the slider he lays off, and it's 2-2.
Ozuna. He's angry at Jose for making the play. That was a heck of a play in the hole. He thought he had a base hit. That's what I think, Ron.
You know what it was also? Remember last night we talked about where Kelly Johnson was playing at third base? He played right on the line. Reyes has been off that line tonight and playing more toward the hole. And I wonder if that's what he was talking about. What the heck was he doing over there?
Look at Jose right now, way in the hole and deep. He's been playing a very deep third base. We know that. So interesting how things are unfolding here. The heat of a pennant race will bring the tempers to 4.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it's a wild card race.
Inside ball 4, and Yelich draws a 2-out walk. First walk given up by Robles, the second by Met pitching tonight. And that'll get Xavier Scruggs to the plate with 2 out and a runner at first. Scruggs 1 for 3 at a base hit back in the first and then struck out twice against Lugo. They've gone to the 7th in Milwaukee. The Cardinals and the Brewers tied at 1. Still 3-0 Cubs over the Pirates in the bottom of the 6th. How do you account for the year that Kyle Hendricks is having?
17 straight starts of 3 runs or less. 2.16 ERA.
And bettering that tonight.
The professor, as he's known by his teammates. Dartmouth guy.
The northern outpost of the ancient 8. Slider in for a strike to Scruggs. I know when we used to travel up to Hanover, it seemed like the end of the earth.
And it usually was a little cold.
And then I went to work there for 2 years. Grounded down to third. Reyes will go the short way, gets the force to end the inning. Let me tell you something. Middle of the winter in Hanover, New Hampshire. Every hair in your nose freezes. 7-2 New York. There's your Verizon line score. Mets trailed early 2-0. Took the lead in the bottom of the first. Seth Lugo held the fort. Mets extended it on 2 Curtis Granderson home runs. And it's 7-2 as we go to the bottom of the 8th. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Miguel Rojas comes in to play third base in a double switch. He'll hit 6th in the order. The new pitcher, Austin Bryce, will hit 3rd.
Just his second appearance. Much like Seth Lugo, he started as a starter and for the Marlins in Jacksonville in their minor league system and then converted to the bullpen.
Yoenis Cespedes leads off in the home 8th. And Bryce throws a fastball letter high for a strike. Austin Bryce, who was born in Hong Kong.
Whoa.
Grew up in North Carolina. Ninth round pick by the Marlins in 2010.
You don't get to say that very often, do you?
I don't know if there are any other big league players born in Hong Kong. Let's investigate.
Okay.
He is the first. Investigation over. I guess he was born in Hong Kong when it was under British control. Was it 1999 it went to China? Cespedes in the air to center. And Ozuna has it measured. 1 out. Noah Syndergaard shares some helpful tips for Met fans attending a game at Citi Field in an all-new episode of the SNY.TV digital series The Amazing Life presented by Coca-Cola. Check it out now at SNY.TV/Coca-Cola. Kelly Johnson will bat for the pitcher in the 4th spot in the batting order. And I wonder whether he'll go in defensively, maybe give Cabrera the last inning off. And Kelly hits one toward the middle, but that's where Echeverria is playing. And there are 2 down. Coming up tonight on Geico Sports Night after the post game, baseball night in New York. That's BNNY for those of you who are uninitiated. They will be discussing the Mets injuries, tennis, and football news as well, all on Geico Sports Night tonight after the post game. Now De Aza, who had an RBI hit in the 6th inning, 1 for 4 on the night, but also had the hustle play of the game in the 5th inning, getting to first base on a strikeout wild pitch. And he grounds one to the right side, and Gordon's got it. So Bryce has himself a 1-2-3 inning on 5 pitches, and we go to the 9th at Citi Field with the Mets up 7-2. Changes for the Mets as we go to the 9th. Jose Reyes moves from third base to short. Kelly Johnson stays in at third, and Jim Henderson will try and get the final 3 outs.
Well, every inning is important. It's important here that Robles had the 2 innings of good work and that Henderson gets through so Reed and Familia don't have to get up.
Miguel Rojas, first man to face him, his first at bat in the game, and he takes a strike. Henderson worked back-to-back days on Saturday and Sunday, had yesterday off, so it's his 3rd outing in the last 4. And as we saw earlier this year with Henderson, he's a guy who's had a history of shoulder issues, and sometimes when he works a lot in a short period of time, it will have an effect.
You'd really like to have him on a day in the game, day off kind of situation.
Went off the mask of Rivera.
Well, that's what makes, I said earlier, Robles, excuse me, so important in that bullpen. There's no reason for him just to go south like he did and lose control when he's been so effective for the middle 2 months of the season. So that's a very positive sign right there with a very sharp 2 innings from Hansel.
A redemptive performance for Robles. 2 innings, no runs, 1 hit. Also redemption tonight for Curtis Granderson with his 2 home runs. Rojas hits one to Flores, and Wilmer throws him out 1 away. Granderson tonight became only the 3rd Met in history to hit 2 home runs in a game that he did not start. The most recent to do it was Scott Hairston in 2011 against the Nationals. The other was in 1964. Hawk Taylor against the Phillies. Hit 2 home runs in a game he did not start. Hawk was very famously a 3rd catcher back in the days when teams had 3rd catchers.
Hawk Taylor, what a great name.
Robert Dale Hawk Taylor.
Not to be confused with Hawk Harrelson.
No, not at all.
Although Taylor that night put it on the board.
Yes. Twice.
Made Casey happy.
'1964 was Hawk Taylor's biggest year in the big leagues. He had 240 in 92 games and hit 4 home runs. All were career highs. And he went 4 for 5 the night he hit the 2 home runs off the bench.
Off the bench?
Yeah.
He went 4 for 5. Extra innings. Had to be, huh? Or an injury.
Yeah, somebody got hurt in the first inning. Maybe Chris Cannizzaro.
Chris Cannizzaro went to the Padres and had a couple good years.
I got to cover Chris Cannizzaro's son in AAA in the late 80s. He was an infielder. 2-1 to Real Muto, and he takes a strike. 2-2. Well, the Mets with a win will leapfrog the Marlins in the standings. Trying to chase down St. Louis, which sits in the second wild card spot. Mets and Marlins both 2.5 behind heading into the night. Full count to Real Muto with Echeverria on deck. Bartolo Colon goes tomorrow night. And the Mets will face David Phelps, who the Mets beat up on earlier this year when he was relieving. Now Phelps is a starter and has been pitching very well, the former Yankee.
The Mets have always been tough on Phelps, even when he was in the pinstripes over in the Bronx. Bartolo looks very worried there in the dugout. Very concerned. Very stoic.
Now, Bart was fabulous again his last time out. He wound up giving up 4 runs in 7 innings plus, but it was really 1 run in 7. Then he tired in the 8th. Had a big lead against the Phillies. But he's been a rock. DeGrom will come back and pitch Thursday night with Steven Matz scratched, and then Syndergaard Friday against the Nats.
Starting pitchers and the pelting of people with sunflower seeds. There's an art to it.
Now, the point was to give DeGrom a full turn off. Now he gets a half a turn off. Does that make any difference at all?
It makes a little bit of difference, but I think for Jacob, you know, he's the kind of personality that didn't want really all that attention coming out of the rotation, you know, so I think he's just happy to be back out there as soon as possible.
Now, the Mets, we mentioned earlier with Mats, they use this TrackMan software, which indicated that DeGrom's arm angle was up a little bit, and that was the reason that his ball wasn't moving as much. How difficult a thing is that to correct?
Well, I will tell you that when you feel like you don't have a lot on the baseball, and I used to have a 3/4 delivery too, sometimes you get your arm on top because you're trying to get a little extra on the ball. And for me, just like Jacob, the ball used to straighten out, and you really didn't throw too much harder.
Real Muto cranks one to deep left field right down the line, and that ball is out of here. Oh. Real Muto with a long home run, his 7th of the year, and it trims the Mets lead to 7-3. That was a bomb. So Real Muto, who's been struggling, had not had an RBI in the last 6 games, and he hits one very deep into the seats and left.
Well, a no-doubter. A moonshot. Oh, fastball in, and he turned on it. Inner half, not in enough. Number 7 for Real Muto.
So Henderson with 2 more outs still to get with a 4-run lead, and now Echeverria fouls back the fastball. Well, Familia is on call now in the Mets bullpen. He'll throw lightly unless somebody else gets on, and then he'll throw harder.
It's a rare changeup from Henderson there.
He really slowed down his arm.
Yes, he did.
There's Jay Reese getting up just in case. 0-2 coming. And Echeverria fouls one down the right side. And that'll go out of play. They've gone to the 8th in Milwaukee. Cardinals and Brewers still tied at 1. 7th inning in Chicago. Cubs 3, Pirates nothing. So if the Mets win and the Pirates lose, the Mets would draw even with the Pirates. Again, the 0-2, and Echeverria fouls off the slider.
Watch Rivera getting that outside. Almost make sure you get your arm up so it doesn't drift back inside. And he didn't. And it drifted back in.
Rivera very encouraging of his pitchers.
Another change up there from Henderson.
Does not look comfortable throwing it, does it?
It's almost like he just wants to give him a different look before he goes back to the fastball or slider.
Jeff Francoeur on deck. And Echeverria goes down swinging on the high fastball. 2 men down.
That wasn't enough, Keith.
I always love up the ladder. Hitter's got 2 strikes. You got some mustard on that fastball. It's hard to lay off.
So the Marlins are down to their final out. Jeff Francoeur with his 2nd plate appearance of the night. Struck out in the 7th inning. And he takes the slider off the plate for ball 1. Anderson trying to finish it off for Seth Lugo and get Lugo his 2nd consecutive victory. Hansel Robles 2 scoreless innings, and now Henderson trying to finish and keep Familia out of the game. There's a strike 1-1. Off the plate, 2-1. Anderson 21 pitches deep into this 9th inning assignment. And Francoeur fouls it back, and now the Marlins are down to their last strike. Two coming. And Francoeur drills it to center. De Aza cutting across, but it lands and goes by him and all the way back to the wall. And Francoeur will take a turn at 2nd and go on to 3rd. And Frenchie's got himself a stand-up triple. And the Marlins are not dead yet. Now the question is, does Henderson get one more batter?
Yes.
Well, Frenchie loves hitting the fastball, always has, always will. Yeah, so tried to cut it off, Keith.
Yeah, it's a 2nd ball here that we've seen. One got by Cespedes last night where they tried to cut it off and the ball was hit a little bit harder.
First triple of the year for Francoeur. Marlins have their 8th hit of the night. And now D. Gordon, who's 1 for 4. He doubled back in the 3rd. So Henderson's given up a home run and a triple. And now Gordon takes a strike. Well, if one more man gets on, I'm sure we'll see Familia. Anderson about to throw his 25th pitch of the inning. And Gordon fouls it off, and again the Marlins are down to their last strike.
Henderson wants this out. You want a game finished. You want to shake some hands after a victory.
Keep your closer out of the game.
That's the most important part.
Right.
Save Familia for tomorrow. 0-2 to D. Gordon. Fouls it back. 95 from Henderson. When's the last time we saw that?
He's kind of a little, okay, enough's enough. I want to close the deal. Let's get out of here. Go home and get a good night's sleep. Speaking for myself.
Well, that's honest. We always appreciate complete candor in this booth.
We never doubted it.
Again, the 0-2. And it's in the dirt. Rivera does a nice job blocking it. 1-2. D. Gordon 1 for 9 in this series. Guy who had 35 hits against the Mets last year. They've held him in check so far. Henderson 1 strike away. And Gordon keeps it going. The Mets are trying to get to 4 games over 500. The last time they were 4 over was at the end of the Yankees series on August 4th. It's at the doldrums after that. But a win tonight would give them 8 in their last 10.
We were there in that stretch, a win 1, lose 1.
And then it got worse.
Yeah.
And Gordon pulls one through the hole, a base hit. That'll bring home Frank Core. And now it's 7-4, and Familia will come in to get the final out. So Henderson unable to seal the deal. Gives up a home run, a triple, and a single. 2 runs home for the Marlins in the 9th inning. And a save situation has now been created for Familia.
High fastball there, Ron, or was it a changeup?
Changeup, Keith.
Third pitch.
So Henderson will exit, and Familia will come in, and Keith will hang here with us. As Familia will be bidding for his 43rd save of the year, looking to tie his club record. We'll be right back. One out for his club record tying 43rd save.
43rd and 92nd for his career.
Will face Marcell Ozuna, who's 1 for 3. Gordon at first. The Mets won't hold him. He takes off, and Ozuna takes a strike. Gordon to second on defensive indifference. Henderson faced 5 batters, gave up 3 hits and 2 runs. Armando Benitez set the club record with 43 saves. Familia tied it last year. And the slider in for a strike, and he's quickly ahead of Ozuna, 0-2. And for the third time, the Marlins are down to their final strike. Oh, and 2 to Ozuna. He struck him out, and the ball game is over. Familia ties his own club record with his 43rd save. Takes just 3 pitches to fan Ozuna, and the Mets have taken the first 2 of this series to leapfrog the Marlins in the standings. Curtis Granderson with 2 home runs. Seth Lugo his second straight win, and the Mets win 7-4.
Well, as it turns out now, the 2 home runs off the bench from Curtis Granderson are big, and what a good sign to see that. Curtis struggling all year, gets the 2 pinch hit home runs late in the ball game, drives in 3. Cabrera back in the lineup, hits a home run. I think one of the big blows of the game, guys. Marlins score 2. Cabrera hits a 2-run home run, answers them in the bottom of the second. Well pitched ball game, Ronnie, from Mr. Lugo.
You can't say enough about this team. A short bench, and to start Montero and Lugo and win the first 2.
And then they have Colon and DeGrom going the next 2 nights. There's your Verizon game summary. Granderson only the 3rd man in history to hit 2 home runs in a game he did not start. Jose Reyes, a 4-hit game. He was the catalyst. And the Mets have taken the first 2 of the series. They've won 8 of their last 10 as they beat the Marlins 7-4. For every Mets win, the Mets organization is proud to contribute $2,500 to Northwell Health and the Cass Institute for Women's Health. For more information, visit northwellhealth.com/KIWH. This win brings the total contribution so far this season to $170,000. Familia puts on the finishing touches with the strikeout of Ozuna. His 43rd save to tie the club record that he and Armando Benitez share. And the Mets get themselves their 2nd straight win in this series with inexperienced starting pitching on the mound. Montero last night, Lugo tonight, and the Mets now in front of the Marlins by a game in the standings. Mets win this one 7-4. We'll come back with more from Flushing in just a moment.